Hi there Star Wars collectors, and welcome to another Bossk's Bounty video, and welcome to episode 148 of Ask Boss Bounty. This is the weekly Q&A series that drops every Sunday, where I take your questions from the comment section below and do my very best to answer them. We've got loads and loads of questions to go through again this week, jam-packed episode, and if you do have a question for next week's episode and you want to be featured, be sure to leave it in the comment section below and we can keep this series going. Before I do get on to the questions, I just want to give a few shout outs. I went to Echo Live yesterday here in the UK. It's a Star Wars convention event, I guess, where people just basically sell lots of vintage and modern Star Wars. It was awesome, but I managed to bump into a few of my Patreon supporters there. So first off, Phil the Force, awesome bloke, really good chat with you, mate, for a long time. We're having a really good chat, and I want to say a big thank you first of all for the Bossk Focus Collector's Patch that you kindly gave to me. That is really awesome, so thank you so much for that. And also for the use of your blue pen for getting the signature of Quentin Pierre, I think his name is. So I took a bunch of these to get signed by Quentin, and Phil had a really nice blue pen, which I felt went really nicely with the name pill and behind the figure. Really good that. So thank you for the use of your pen, Phil, to get those done. Now, I managed to get one of those for myself. I managed to get one for my buddy, the action figure grader. And I also got another one, which is going to be up for a prize for my Patreon supporters and channel members. So be sure to look out for that in the future. That's going to be a giveaway in October. I also bumped into David Grinstaff, who is another Patreon supporter, and he kindly gave me this t-shirt of someone that you may recognise. It's the action figure grader. His t-shirt. This t-shirt was one size too big for David, so he kindly gave me that. I don't know what that says about the size of me, but it fits me like a glove. So thank you so much for that, David, and it was awesome to meet you once again. I've met you before, so that was awesome to see you again. I'd also like to shout out Adam Berry. It was awesome to have a chat with you as well, my friend, and thank you so much for the little Stormtrooper plushie that I gave to my son, that you kindly gave that to him. So thank you so much for that. He loves it. Also a big shout out to Des T, who I know very well from in the comments of my videos, and thank you for those couple of coins that you gave me as well. Showered with gifts as well. It was awesome. So kind of you guys, and so good to meet you all. And also Patreon supporter Gary, I think your name's Gary, I apologise if I got that wrong, but we had a quick chat as well, and it was just awesome to see you guys. And I'd also like to give a shout out to two guys that unfortunately I wasn't able to get your names at the time. One of you spoke to me in the car park just as I was leaving and actually helped me find my car, so thank you so much for that. You were there with your wife or girlfriend. Really nice to have a chat with you about my channel and everything, and I appreciate the support. And another guy as well, just walking around the convention, you were there with your girlfriend as well. Again, I do apologise, I didn't get your name. There's so many names going yesterday, but thank you so much for supporting the channel and watching my videos. Really appreciate it. Also, a couple of my very good friends, Tom and Mark, were giving out some swag, because lots of people give out swag at these events, and Tom put these badges together. So there you go, Echo Live, October 22nd. A few little badges there. We've got a Manadan 22, which is a bit of a private joke between me and my friends. And we also have these ones from Mark. This was really clever design. This is like in the style of a mailer box. It says Echo Base Live, Secret Swag Mailer, Kingfisher Redditch. And he's got these sort of like mail away badges with the posters that they used to advertise them back in the day. So you've got the Rancor Keeper there and the Emperor. That is awesome, man. Really good. And he was giving out those to loads of different people. This thing here I managed to pick up for £15. It's an absolutely bashed up card back, but I need the Super Battle Droid loose to have with my Death Watch Mandalorians from The Mandalorian, so really pleased to pick that up for £15. Really pleased with that. Alright then, so enough about me going to Echo Live and the things I picked up and the people I met. You're here for the questions, and we've got loads of questions as I mentioned, so let's get on with the first question. GA says, hey BB, thanks for another interesting instalment. My question for next week: what was your score out of 10 for this year's TVC Hasbro Pulsecon Reveals? Did anything surprise you? Cheers, mate. I've got to say my score is pretty low for this time. I think I'd give it like maybe a 3 or a 4 out of 10 for the TVC Reveals. I didn't think we really got a lot. There was quite a few interesting pipeline reveals of the bunker that we've been rumouring and things like that. If you really want a decent take on what I thought, then I made a video late last night about it. That is on the channel. I'll link to that in the description below and you can check that out. But ultimately, I was pretty disappointed in what we saw. Darth Australis says, g'day boss, question for next week. With the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi next year, do you think Hasbro will finally give us a good quality figure of Wedge Antilles? The figure we have in the VC line currently doesn't cut the mustard for me. It's a poorly sculpted head on a reused pilot body, making Wedge much too short compared to the real actor's height. It would open up the possibility of a Rebel Pilot 4-pack with 2 different sculpts, Luke and the new Wedge, giving what I feel these 4-packs need, more variety. Cheers and thanks again from Australia, mate. It's a very good point. The 4-packs could definitely use that sort of thing. I would love a pilot's 4-pack, and you could get some of the sort of more sort of background pilots into the line doing it that way. But you're right, the current Wedge Antilles isn't a great figure. It could be better, but unfortunately I think with Hasbro, I think maybe they just think that they've ticked this one off. Wedge Antilles is in the vintage collection, and I don't think I can see them revisiting it anytime soon. At least it's not one that I've heard of for next year. There's plenty of Return of the Jedi coming next year, but I think it's going to be more centered around like the skiffs, as we saw with the reissue figures of all the Jabba's goons, and also Endor. I'm not really too sure, you know, whether the Battle of Endor, above Endor as it were, will get a focus, but we'll have to wait and see. You never know, but I think, as I say, unfortunately, I think Hasbro might think Wedge Antilles vintage collection, he's done, don't need to do him again. A really long question from Starkiller here, and I'm probably going to lose my voice if I read it out, buddy, so I'm just going to summarise it for you. So he's basically asking that the Starkiller that's been pipelined, you know, will that come out as a straight reissue, or will they update the card to have the actual, you know, the name of the game on the card back? And with all honesty, I don't really know what they're going to do, because they've done it 2 different ways with different figures, haven't they? They've updated like the 501st clone to include him in the Clone Wars card, and they've done a straight repack of the Expanded Universe Republic Trooper. So I don't really know what they should do with that. Personally, I would like a new card back with that game on the logo. That would be ideal, wouldn't it? And then it would be making it different from the previous release. You also ask a question about Revan. I think Revan is a strong possibility for next year. As you say, we knocked back the 30th anniversary being brought into the line, and I think they've mentioned it on a few occasions. So with the Gaming Greats line going strong, I can see them doing a Revan, possibly next year. So we'll have to wait and see, but I think they've done it in the Black Series, both the good and the bad, you know, the Jedi one as well. So maybe they can knock out 2 figures with 1 sculpt on that one. Who knows? But you know, I know for a fact that it is definitely on Hasbro's radar, because they've talked about it on a few different occasions on various live streams and things like that. Rob Ernest says, great video as always, boss. Question for next week. Since the Endor bunker has been rumoured to be the next retail playset backdrop, well, it is actually pipelined eventually last night, so that was good. What carded figure do you think will come with it? A Scout Trooper, the new Han Solo, Rebel Endor Commando? And if it's the Trooper or Commando, do you think it will coincide with a 4-pack being released next year? Keep up the excellent content. Thank you for the question, Rob. So I don't think it's going to be that Han Solo, because I know that the Han Solo is in one of the waves. I can't be sure if it's wave 1 or 2 for next year, but he is definitely a single figure, single carded in a wave, so he will not be in that bunker playset. We were having this conversation last night on John Miko's live stream, which was awesome to be a guest on, so thank you so much for that, buddy. And we were saying that it might be a Imperial officer repainted in black, because obviously we're getting the Piet, so maybe they can just repurpose that and put a, you know, an Imperial officer in there. You've got the idea of a Scout Trooper, it could well be that as well, you never know, but we are getting one of those with the speeder bike, so maybe a variation of one of those or something. Who knows, man, but it'll be interesting to see, and I can't wait for them to actually, you know, reveal that set, because it's been a long time in the making. I think I've known about that one for a little while now, and it's just finally out there that we're getting it, so, you know, we need to see pictures of it now. Josh B says, great Q&A. If Hasbro decides to make the N1 as a HasLab, do you think they'll keep the price low due to how the Marvel Legends Ghost Rider car is going? So first off, I'm hoping that the N1 isn't a HasLab. I think that should just be a retail release of a vehicle. It would be very strange for me if they made that a HasLab. HasLab's got to be something, you know, a bit more grand than that. In all honesty, I don't really know anything about the Ghost Rider car. Marvel isn't something that I follow, but I did, after you've raised this question, have a quick sort of look into what's going on with that. And it seems to be that a lot of people saying that it's way overpriced, and judging by the fact that it's just like a car with not too many paint apps and not too many sort of moving pieces and stuff, if you compare that to previous HasLabs that they've done for Marvel, then yeah, it's looking like it is overpriced. And maybe that's why I believe it's not getting the backing that it should. I think there was like an early bird figure that they didn't hit or something. So as I say, it's not something that I sort of look at or anything. The only thing that I'm ever interested in with HasLabs is if it's a vintage collection HasLab. And obviously I was following the Rancor one closely because that was the first Black Series one that they did. And as much as I don't really like the whole HasLab concept as a thing, it is a thing and we kind of have to accept it at the moment. But yeah, looking at that Ghost Rider car, it does look like it's overpriced. And let's hope when they do reveal a vintage collection one that they get the pricing right. Because as we've seen with the Rancor, you know, the very start of these campaigns has to be right. And I think the base offering and the base price have to be correct. People don't really care about the stretch goals and sort of like the total value of what they're getting. The stretch goals should be extra because they're hitting these goals and they're making more money. The base offering should be at the correct price. So that's my point on that. But as I say, back to the N1, please Hasbro, don't make that a HasLab. That would be a complete waste in my opinion. Lord Unforgiven 90 says, hello, I am a new entry to the channel and watching all of your videos from the past. Thank you so much. Which figures do you expect from the Book of Boba Fett show? Second question, do you think a playset with the Mandalore throne room could be done since it appears also in the trailer for the season 3 of Mando? It could be the next HasLab. Thanks and keep up the great work. Again, I don't think maybe that would warrant being a HasLab. HasLabs to me need to be something like big, or not necessarily big, but something prestigious, like the barge basically, and even the Razor Crest to some extent. You know, I think the quality of the Razor Crest was very, very high. So I don't think like a throne room should be a HasLab, and I think they thought about that with the Book of Boba Fett throne, and then, you know, made it a Pulse exclusive instead. In terms of figures for the Book of Boba Fett show, obviously we got the Tusken Raider, the female Tusken Raider warrior pipelined. As I've said before, I would expect the main characters from there. You know, Black Chrysanthemum, Cad Bane, I would fully expect them. Cobb Vanth would be a good one, but I've heard nothing on the sort of grapevine about that figure. The Chieftain to go with the warrior would be a nice figure. So lots to do from the Book of Boba Fett, but I've got to say the Book of Boba Fett isn't really at the top of my list of wants right now. It's in the past for me now, and I'm fully concentrating on Andor and wanting figures from that show. So, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. The Hunger Bear says, great video as always. What are your thoughts on the Andor series? Okay, so first of all, the first episode, I've got to admit, I thought it was on the slowish side. It was, you know, it was struggling to sort of grip me right from the very beginning. I felt that it was missing something and I couldn't really sort of pinpoint what that was. It was very sort of Blade Runner-esque, that sort of feel to it. But then, you know, by the second episode, third episode, and especially the fourth episode, I am, you know, well involved. You know, I'm all in with this series. I think it's great. Some of the characters are amazing. Luthen, for me, is just awesome. What an actor that guy is. To play two roles in the film almost, you know, that sort of fake antique dealer. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen it. But I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I just can't wait to see what happens with it. You know, I think it's a really good show. There's like, it's more for adults. There's a bit of swearing in it and stuff. So it's clearly made for sort of like people our age or my age. Maybe not so much for my son who's 9. He couldn't really get into it. He found it a little bit boring. He much preferred Obi-Wan and the Book of Boba Fett, and you can see why. So this is more for the sort of older fans, and I'm you know, 100% in. Tony J says, great video as always. Question for next week: how would your top 5 Empire Strikes Back figures list change if you included the Vintage Saga and Original Trilogy lines? Some good bounty hunters in there to consider at least. So if anybody watching this video isn't aware, I'm doing a series on my channel which drops every Wednesday with my good buddy Nick from the N1 Kenobi channel. We're going through our top 5 vintage collection figures by film. So the first episode was a couple of weeks ago. We did the A New Hope figures, and then last week we did the Empire Strikes Back, and then this week coming we're doing the Return of the Jedi. But to answer your question, Tony, there are definitely 2 or 3 from the Vintage Saga collection that may have got into my top 5 had we included the Vintage Saga collection and had maybe the figure been a bit more sort of updated and to today's standards. And the first one would probably be this one. I love the Imperial Stormtrooper in Hoth battle gear. The card back is an absolute classic. I own one of these in the Vintage Kenner line. And yeah, I think this would have made it into my top 5. Look at him there. He is one of the coolest looking Stormtroopers going. Fantastic. Of course, I would have had to have included Bossk because he is my favourite sort of figure and card back. I absolutely love it, even though the card back is a bit washed out. And me and Nick have had these conversations, you know, we've said, you know, would Bossk be in? And he would for me. But, you know, we do know that the card back isn't really that great in terms of the quality of the image. But I just love it, man. I can't help it. It'd have to go in. Brian Sutton says, hi, Bossk. Love your channel and always have enjoyed your insights. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much, Brian. I'm an old school collector and saw Star Wars in the theatres in 1977. My favourite figure has always been the Stormtroopers and Sandtroopers. My question is, now that we have a definitive Stormtrooper, do you think Hasbro will release a carded Sandtrooper? Thank you so much. So again, this is one of the conversations that me and Nick were having in the first episode when we were doing the A New Hope figures, because we both rank the current Sandtrooper figure and card back in our top 5s, and we were just saying, now that we've got the definitive Stormtrooper on that A New Hope card, wouldn't it be awesome if they put the accessories and the pauldron from the Sandtrooper on that figure, gave him a bit of weathering and gave us a new definitive Sandtrooper? And I can't say whether that's a thing, but I think, you know, if Hasbro have got anything about them and they want to make money off of that sculpt, which I'm sure they do, you know, I think that's a complete possibility, isn't it, to get into the line. But maybe there's other things they want to do first with it. I don't know. But yeah, it's certainly something that I would love. This is No Cave says, question for next week. Hasbro Pulse is currently offering a 3-pack of figure stands that are designed for 6-inch figures. Those feature a clip that can be used for flight poses, and they work somewhat well with the Vintage Collection figures Mandalorians in Flight. While this is nice, it's been years since Hasbro offered stands designed actually for 3.75-inch figures on their own, and the situation with stands seems more complicated because of the situation with peg holes for the current TVC figures. They seem to be shallow and a peg won't fully seat in them, an unintended consequence of rocker ankle joints perhaps. Do you think Hasbro should offer figure stands for those TVC collectors who open and display their figures? And if so, what form do you think they should take? So I think within your question, you've kind of raised the problem that Hasbro probably have with this, and that is the difference in peg holes. And I think that's why they've never done it for the Black Series as well. Different figures have different peg holes. They've never been able to sort of standardize it. The female characters have very, very shallow and small peg holes. As you mentioned, the rocker ankles have different peg holes. Some are on the toe, some are on the heel. And I just don't think they can ever do a stand saying, here's the stand for the Vintage Collection, because they're all so different. And that's probably why they've never done them. So unfortunately, I really don't have a solution for that. But talking about stands very quickly, I just wanted to bring your attention to this. This case here is from GW Acrylics, and I picked this up from Echo yesterday. And what this is a single figure sort of case. And what happened was they used to rattle around quite a lot because they didn't used to have this like tray in them. But what he's done is he's designed this tray which slots in, and then the stand for the figure sits within it. So they're a lot more sturdy in there, and they look awesome. So I just thought I'd mention that. They have them on their website, I believe. I think it's a new thing. The case is the same, but this new little sort of slide-in tray allows for the stand to sit in there. And I thought that was a pretty cool thing. So they're available on their website if you want to check them out. My name is Not Rick says, hey Boss, question for next week. Logistically, how is Hasbro going to fulfill the demand of the Selfie series when they have trouble with current lines, i.e. the Vintage Collection and Black Series? Well, first of all, mate, I think the Selfie series is ridiculous. It's not for me. I can understand there are people that would want to put their own head on a figure. Two things for me. It's the wrong scale for me, so I'm not really that bothered with it. Secondly, I saw they put the price up already, and I think the price is way too high for those figures. Thirdly, I just don't think they look very good. I think the ones that they had of their team on the Pulsecon thing didn't really look like who they were supposed to look like. Maybe I think it was Jin with the Stormtrooper body. That looked half okay. I think the others looked pretty poor. And from what I've heard, people that have been trying to do it on the app or whatever it is where you have to take the photo of yourself, they've been having problems with the app saying that photo already exists, or they couldn't sort of do it. And to me, they really needed to refine this process before they sort of put it out there. I don't think they've got it right yet. All right then, guys, that's it for this week's episode. As I said before, if you do have a question for next week's episode, please leave it in the comment section below to keep this series going. I appreciate all the questions that I get every week, so thank you so much. I hope you've enjoyed the episode this week. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to my Patreon supporters and channel members. It was absolutely awesome to meet some of you yesterday at Echo Live, and I hope I get to meet more of you in the future. So thank you all for watching, guys, and we shall see you on the next one.